Mistakes, folks. We all make them. I made one recently when I decided to go see Shelby Oaks over the Chainsaw Man movie. You know who also makes mistakes? Authors, that's right. Many of them may be masters of the English language, but they are not immune to harmless little oopsies, and also not immune to morally reprehensible career-ending disasters. So we're going to talk about some of those today, because recently I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. The world of books and, booktube and booktok, it's so vast. So many different, subsections and cliques that I generally miss a lot of stuff that goes on. But I've been learning things that have been going on, and oh my god, I gotta yap about some of this stuff because it's so entertaining, so unbelievable. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about some fun mistakes today, greatly ranging in severity, and while most of these are modern, I did want to go back a few years first to talk about one of my favorite book mistakes. If you're old enough, you probably remember in 1631 when an edition of the Bible was printed with one of the most hilarious typos of all time. In probably the most consequential part of the Bible, where the 10 Commandments are listed, they somehow made the error of printing "thou shalt commit adultery." And this version of the Bible has kind of gone on to legendary status, with it earning the name the Wicked Bible. At the time, of course, people were not too thrilled about this, and nearly every single copy was seized and destroyed. But a handful of them still do exist, and I find them to be so funny. This is the 1630s we're talking about. People going to pick up a fresh copy of the Bible and seeing that, God only knows the chaos this thing caused. And while this incident is not really related to anything else we're going to be talking about today, I did just want to bring attention to it if you hadn't heard about it, because I do think it's like the gold standard of literary errors, and it's good to learn from our history so something like this never happens again. Though between you and me, if I were a Bible publisher, I'd definitely pull one of these out every now and then, just for a little prank, just get a few wicked Bibles out there, to see what happens. This next one is another simple mistake that I think is one of the funniest things I have ever seen. John Boyne is a rather serious historical fiction author, best known for his Holocaust story, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. It's likely you know where I'm going with this, but if you have not heard of it, oh boy, you're not prepared for what's about to happen. His 2020 book, A Traveler at the Gates of Wisdom, seems like, his standard style of historical fiction. Takes place in the year 1 AD, so, things are quite primitive back then. There's a part where a character is describing dressmaking and how they make the dyes, the ingredients of which, of course, include Octorok eyeball, Keyswing, High-tail lizard, the tail of the red Lizalfos, and 4 Hylian shrooms. This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Yes, these are all common dye ingredients in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So silly. And you know what? When John Boyne claims that this was just a wacky Google search he made and he didn't really proof check it and it accidentally got in, and not a single editor in the process seemed to notice these were, items from Zelda, I believe them. I really do. Because it's just too stupid. If anyone in the whole process, noticed this, they would have taken it out. And it, of course, has been taken out of reprint. But it's so funny because I'm sure so many people read this book who are not familiar with Zelda and just, took it at face value. Octorok eyeballs, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's accurate because this is a historical fiction book from an acclaimed author. Fantastic stuff. Love to see it. Hope it happens more in the future. Now, this was a harmless and very obvious silly mistake, but sometimes mistakes in the text can be a bit more subtle. Case in point, Heavenly Tyrant by Shirin J. Zhao. I've talked about this author before. I think they're cool as a person. Do not care for their books, but that's besides the point. I was still looking into their newest release, Heavenly Tyrant, and I noticed something extremely funny. So they had actually posted a Goodreads review for the book, issuing a correction to something that happens in the story, because apparently it was confusing readers and being misinterpreted. Future copies of the book were updated to address this, but for people with older copies, they posted this guide showing what it should say now. And it's very funny because as someone who hasn't read the book, you're sort of reading this and you're like, okay, there's been a mistake. I don't really know what the context is. And let me tell you, you probably wouldn't have guessed it. Yeah, that is quite the thing to confuse readers about. I also like how this leads into another paragraph where they have to clarify the age rating of the book, because this is a bit intense for like a book marketed toward teenagers, so that was the whole thing. Overall, I think this one's fairly harmless, but it is very funny as well. But what happens when a mistake like this isn't harmless? Am I really going to talk about Icebreaker again? Hell yeah! It's just so baffling to me. If for whatever reason you still don't know what's up with this book, in the original edition of Icebreaker, the best friend of the main character was Muslim, and her portrayal in the book was very stereotypical and very offensive to Muslim readers. I don't believe it was the author's intention, but the fact it turned out the way it did, the fact that no one in publishing, stopped and told her to change it, is a little sus to me. But the worst thing isn't what happened, it's what they did about it. Instead of updating the book to address people's concerns and make this character less stereotypical, a bit more nuanced, they just decided to replace her with a generic white girl with no personality. Like, oh, we're not gonna fix our Muslim representation, we're just gonna remove it. Okay. Great message, folks, in a book that's already full of abhorrent ones. So yeah, it's a bit yikesy, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. But we're going to be taking up the severity a couple notches now, as we get into some real juicy drama. Now, something that's been happening in, the past while is the rise of self-published indie books. If someone wants to write and publish a book these days, they can. There's not really much stopping you. Traditional publishing is still big, and how, most authors get noticed, but we have seen quite a few in recent years come from the indie scene and end up very popular. But another issue with self-publishing is because anyone can do it. Yeah, there's a lot of garbage out there. And of course, with the rise of AI giving people the illusion that they can shortcut a lot of their work, yeah, we got a bit of a crisis going on. And one of these authors is Lena McDonald, whose short-lived indie publishing career seemed to have ended just as she was being discovered, appeared to have this in its text. Yes, an accidentally left in AI prompt, which is bad enough. Like, that is career ending in itself. But this AI prompt was specifically asking whatever chatbot she was using to plagiarize another author. And that is just a nuclear level mistake. Not only is it enough to get you blacklisted from the industry, but it just shows a complete lack of respect for the author you're inspired by, and for the art of writing in general. AI being illegally trained off of books is a very big issue right now, and authors like this are not helping, and the more that get exposed, the better. But can we get worse than lazy plagiarists? Oh, we can. Colby Wilkins shot onto the scene a few years ago, scoring a 6-figure book deal to publish her queer native stories, which she was of course writing from a queer and native perspective. Good for her, love to see it. Now, I actually got an interesting story for you guys. If you go back on my mom's side of the family about 4 generations, you will reach the indigenous people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Yes, that's right, I actually do have a small tiny bit of indigenous ancestry. Would I ever claim to be indigenous? No, that's absolutely psychotic. And it turns out Colby Wilkins has absolutely none at all. Like, 0 native ancestry. Yet here she is, wearing it on her sleeve that she is a Native American author. Do I even need to explain what was wrong with this whole situation? She was very clearly trying to tap in to a demographic to get support based on her ancestry that she just did not have. So of course her book comes out and it's a huge flop. She put out a statement defending her ancestry, claiming that she did have proof and that she would show it. Yet at the same time, she also pledged to stop writing native stories. I mean, I feel like if you're innocent and can exonerate yourself, like, you wouldn't need to do that. Also, It's been a while. Where is the proof to exonerate yourself? I have a feeling that the publisher is not going to be making those 6 figures back. And for their sake, I hope there was a loophole in the contract to get out of it. Now, we're going to go back to Xiu and Jie Zhao here, because they were actually, I think, the first person to expose this next story. And if you've heard of any publishing drama in the last couple years, it's probably been this one. This one's got its own Wikipedia page, man. Miss Kate Corain herself. Yes, Corain had everything going for her. She had a fancy book deal. Her debut novel was set to release in a few months, with some people having already read it through advanced review copies. But I think she started to get a bit insecure with the notion that people might not like her book. So she decided to do what any normal, healthy person would do, and spend her time mass creating burner Goodreads accounts to boost her own scores while also I always forget, like, Apple has these, like, weird effects on their webcam thing. But yeah, she was essentially review bombing other authors' debut novels, which is just so sad and pathetic. She was also accused of making some negative reviews for her book, which she would then use as, like, a rally to get people she knows to come together and boost it further against, you know, the unfair trolls. Yeah, it's just terrible optics all around, so it's no surprise that the publisher dropped her, and that book has never been released. There have only been a few people who have actually read it. They don't have the nicest things to say. But yeah, it's very likely this book will never see the light of day. But there was another aspect which made this controversy all the more worse, because it just so happened that all of the debut authors that she was review bombing were people of color. Now, Corain has claimed that this has had nothing to do with racism, but good lord, is that suspicious, man. Like, come on. All of them were people of color? Really, bro? She has gone on to blame all of this on, you know, drugs and mental illness, which, you know, makes sense. It's no excuse. But this isn't really the behavior of a healthy person. And it's safe to say that this was a mistake that definitely ended her career before it had really even started. Like, at least the ones we've talked about, you know, still released their books. There are a bunch of giant monster deep dives into this one because there's so much to it. So if you are interested, check those out, I suppose. And now, the granddaddy. This was the one that got me down this rabbit hole. This is the one I've been itching to talk about. Audra Winter. Have you heard of this lady? She is the 22-year-old CEO of the World of Guardian LLC. And she has been writing The Age of Scorpius for 10 years. She has a team of 15 talented artists, and what they are working on is gonna blow you away. You'll notice that, like the Kate Corain controversy, this is one that has garnered a lot of attention on social media, and it's very common to see extremely long videos breaking it all down. So I can't really do it all justice in the short time we have. But to summarize, Audra appeared on BookTok with a premise and a dream. Yes, she'd been working almost her whole life on this book, The Age of Scorpius, and based on the art she was showing off, the things she was saying about the book, people were pretty interested in it, so she started to gain a bit of a following, constantly hyping up this book that was set to release soon. Her and her team put together this really nice looking edition of it, put it up for pre-order, lots of people buy it, lots of people receive it, but all of the hype for this new author and this new, you know, giant epic fantasy series was purely vibes based. There was not a single excerpt of writing available. Things have happened like this before where a product is really hyped up and then when it comes out, it's really not what people expected. But to say that about this one would be doing it a disservice. And not in the normal sense that the story was bad, though of course it seems like it was. But this one was really giving like, do you know how to write? Do you know how to proofread anything? And it's so baffling, like even if this was indie published, I mean like something like this should never have gotten published. So of course the people who supported it were extremely pissed off, the reviews for the book were scathing. You know how hard it is to get anything under a 3 on Goodreads. This baby's got a 1.5, baby! Audra originally ignored the criticism that the book seemed to be rightfully getting, but it eventually became too much. much, because it was very clear that in its current state, Audra would not be able to continue writing the Age of Scorpius books. So she got together with her team of 15 artists, which, by the way, I'm not exaggerating, she does own a company which appears to be made up of entirely artists. There is a lot of art being produced for this book, but like 15 of them? And what is the deal here? Are they just like contract workers? Are they like permanent? Like they just sit at their desk like 40 hours a week drawing Age of Scorpius stuff? I don't know, man. But anyway, what she decided to do was basically like put out a big apology saying, you know, it was rushed and all this stuff. And now in a few short months, she is going to completely rewrite the entire giant book so that it is in a good and readable state, you know, like the bare minimum it should have been. And that's currently where we are. Yes, this story does not have an ending yet, though it is quite the deep rabbit hole. Like, if any of this sounds entertaining to you at all, I would definitely look more into it, because there's so much to unpack about it. Part of me does feel bad for Audra, because, you know, she does seem genuinely passionate about this story, and of course she claims to have put 10 years of her life into it, so it must be disheartening to finally release it and everyone hates it. And it does seem like she has this inability to claim it's a failure and just move on. But everything about this entire timeline just reeks of mismanagement and not listening to criticism and getting bad advice and not doing research. And I'm afraid that there's nothing that can really be done at this point. Like, sure, you can make a bunch of beautiful art and put out a high-quality book. Sure, you can offer free ebooks to people who bought the old crappy version. But so much damage has been done to this brand and to this book. If Audra can climb her way out of this, it'd probably be a miracle. Either way, I am eagerly anticipating updates, because this is some juicy, fun stuff. And with all of that out of my system, I think we can call it there. Yes, thank you all for watching. Let me know what some of your favorite publishing controversies are in the comments down below. Anything I missed, any other crazy rabbit holes I should dive into. I doubt I'll make another video like this anytime soon, but I had quite a bit of fun with it, and next time, I think I have an overdue date with the king.